Okay, now that we're wrapping up angles and tangent lines and circles, we're going to move on to equations of circles. And just as a quick recap, we have our circle. That's a poorly drawn circle. That's a little better, right? With center C. And our radius right here, R, right? We've seen this before. We're used to this. This isn't anything new. But now, we can't find an equation with this. We don't have enough information. So in order to find an equation of a circle, we need to now put this on a coordinate plane, or put it on a grid, right? So we have our x-axis and y-axis drawn in, right? Here's the x, here's the y. Right? We have the center of the circle at the origin, right? So now what we can do is draw our circle in. And we know right now that this is our radius, right? And what we can do from here is something we've seen before. So what we know about the radius is that we are going x units over and y units up. So we can call this point we can call this point right here xy, right? That's what that is. So let me draw that over here. So we have our 2 points xy. We drew the x in green and the y in blue. So that kind of just shows what we do with that. So what we did here now is we actually created a right triangle. And if we know that it's x units over and y units up, we can automatically write out the Pythagorean theorem for this. So if this is x, this is y, and that's r, we know that this equation for this circle is going to be x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. All right? So let's say that we had r is equal to 5 in this case. So let's just say that r is equal to 5. So now that equation becomes x squared plus y squared is equal to 5 squared. And now we know a lot of values that have worked with this. We've worked with this one before. So we can say that some points that work are if your x is 3 and your y is 4. If your x is 4 and your y is 3, those are interchangeable. You can work with negatives. We're focusing with positives right now because you can only have positive values for a radius, right? So now what we can do is this is what the equation of the circle would be if the circle is at the origin, right? It's going to look very kind of a little less like populated with values, right? So it's just x squared plus y squared is r squared. Now let's see an example where the center of the circle is not the radius, or is not the origin. So we have our circle right here, right? Let's draw our circle. And now let's take a look here. We have our y-axis and our x-axis again. Okay, so now what we're looking at is we know that this again is our radius, right? We know this is our radius, and from up above, we know that we call this point x units over and y units up. So same thing, x, y. So now we're actually talking about something new. We know that we don't know what the center of the circle is. So we can just call this any point, right? We can call this, we're going to be using, the center is called HK, right? So now what we can do is something very similar. We know that this forms a right triangle. Right here and right there. We know that that forms a right triangle. But these values aren't x and y anymore. They're going to be something a little different. So right now we do have 4 values that we're working with. X, y, h, and k, right? So we can keep our x the same. What was x? Green. let's say that our x is going to be from 0 all the way over here, because that's the point we're working with, right? And we made y blue, so y is going to be from down here all the way up to where our point meets, right? X units over, y units up. Now h is going to be from here to where the center of the circle is at hk, right? And now we know that k, I don't know why those are so much bigger, are going to be from, is going to be from down here to where the y value is k, right? So now we're focusing more on, not that. We're focusing on right here and right here, but they're no longer x and y. We need to take the x value and subtract the h value, because that's what will give us in the middle. So this value is going to become x minus h, and in the same thing that we do here, it's going to be y minus k for right here. So what that's going to be is y minus k. And now we can just write the Pythagorean theorem like we had before, right? Same thing. So we know that's going to look like x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And now this is what we call the standard form for an equation of a circle. And this is what we're going to be, so yeah, right here. All right, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Perfect. Okay. So now let's look at an example of this. So we're given that the center of a circle is equal to 3, 4, and the radius is equal to 6, right? So we already know most of these, right? So we called our center HK. We know that the center here is 3, 4. So we can just substitute in h and k. And we know that the radius is r. So now we just need to take our values and substitute it into the standard form. So that's going to be x minus our h value, which is 3, squared, plus y minus our k value, which is 4, squared, is equal to the radius squared, which is 36. And that's going to be the equation for that circle, with the center of 3, 4, and a radius of 6. So now let's look at a different example. So right now, we're given, so you're not always going to be given the equation. Sometimes you're going to be given the circle and have to draw the equation. So right now we're given our axes, right? Let's see, it's about right here. Let's say that we have our circle here, about right there, right? Let's say this is the center of the circle. All right, okay. So now then continue to draw these. So right now we're given this circle, right? But we have no idea what the equation is. So what we can actually do is count over to find the center of the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the center. And then -1, -2 units down, right? So we know this is going to be our center of the circle, right? Now, in order to find the radius, what we need to do is count from the center of the circle to where a point lines up. So in this case, it would be here or right here, right? Where did the pencil go? Okay. Not like that. So if we count units over, that's going to be 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units over, right? So we know that the radius is 3. So let's go back. We know our center is equal to 6, -2. We know that the radius is equal to 3. So now we can draw or write our equation for the circle. So we remember that the center is h and k, right? So, and we know that the radius is r. So we can go back to our standard form, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So now we can just substitute in the values. So we have x minus 6 squared plus y minus -2 squared is equal to 3 squared. And when we simplify this, x minus 6 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 9. And sometimes you're like in this problem, you're going to have an x or a y plus a value, which means that the circle, the center of the circle is not above the x-axis. So in this case, in this problem, it is above the x-axis, so that's why we subtract x or h and k. In this case, our k value is negative. So we end up subtracting a negative, which is the same as adding a positive number, right? So you're always going to see some type of different problems with these.